Today is February 21st, 2018. I am Hansen Szu, curator at the Center for Software History. And today we are here with Szu-Chi Chang. Is that correct? How do you pronounce your name in Chinese?
Zhang
Zhang, okay. And also with your daughter, Ray?
Yes.
Ray Chang. And so let's start at the beginning. Where and when were you born?
I was born in Ningbo, Zhejiang, China. The town actually very close to the famous city called Shanghai. But actually most of my life in the kids' time is in Shanghai.
And what year?
I was born in February 21st, 1934 in Ningbo, yeah.
So today is your birthday.
Yeah.
So you grew up mostly in Shanghai.
Shanghai, yes.
And this was during the years of the war with Japan, correct?
Yes. Actually, Japan, I think, occupied Shanghai that time. Yeah. My father, he is a engineer on an English ship. That time was in India when Japan soldier occupied Shanghai. And then my father flew into Yunnan in China, and he somehow asked my mother to join him. But we tried, but when we reached the Hankou, we couldn't cross the border line. So my mother took me back into Shanghai. I have a sister. She's 8 years older than me. My sister wasn't my mother's daughter. It's my father's previous marriage, and my sister's mother died later. My father, married my mother. So my mother took my sister and me living in Shanghai, and she worked as a labor to support. And my little sister at home cooked meal for whole family.
Wow. And so how did so your mother was primarily, did she work or did she just
yeah, she worked as a labor, in the was a pier, and just a labor carried stuff from a ship on board. Yeah.
And so your father wasn't with you during that time. He couldn't.
My father's work in Yunnan, way back in west of China, Midwest, I guess, and as an engineer in electric company, I guess.
And so you said he was working for the British.
Well, that time he worked for Chinese government.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. For
In Yunnan. Yeah.
Okay, right. For the Nationalist government.
Yeah. That time Chiang Kai-shek is the
Right.
leader. Yeah.
Right. How did your situation change as the war ended?
When war ended, my father go back to Shanghai, and then we get together, and also because he used to work in steamship, so back to Shanghai after World War II. He worked for government steamship. Later, she became chief engineer. Yeah.
Wow. So I guess he had a pretty good position then.
Yeah.
Was it?
So after World War, our families have a better life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How did your family manage to survive during the war?
It's difficult because as a labor, the wage is very low. Okay, because my mother never went to school. It's way back there. Girls usually don't go to school at all, so she never have any education. So the only job he can take is the labor, using physical. I mean, after war, my mother was just as a housewife.
And so then what happened after 1949?
In 1949, my father's steamship was ordered by Chiang Kai-shek to carry the armies from Shanghai to Hong Kong to Taiwan. And that time, because my father is a chief engineer, so he's allowed to take his family. That time, my sister already married in Shanghai, so she stayed in Shanghai. So my mother and me go with my father with the ship, went to Taiwan. Yeah. That time I'm 15 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you afraid? Was your family afraid of communist reprisals?
Well, that time the reason my mother this time go with father is because she experienced the World War II separated with her father, so she was afraid to separate again. That's why this time she wants to stay with father. Actually, I wasn't in the school. All the school teachers favor communism, and they say the communism for the people. So even though I'm only 15, I don't know much, but I'm not afraid of communism because the teacher.
Because the teachers made it sound like a good thing.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Did you want to stay, or did you?
Well, as a kid, I have I have no choice. Whatever parents want me to do, I just follow. Yeah.
So what was it like moving to Taiwan?
Because my father still is a chief engineer, and so our life in Taiwan is pretty good. Yeah.
So where did you live in Taiwan?
Taiwan in Taipei.
Taipei, okay.
Yeah, and we live in the dormitory provided by my father's company. It's a very good area. Yeah.
So, what sorts of things were you interested in as a child?
I like to draw. Okay, and I play soccer a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any favorite subjects in school?
In the school, I attend high school. In China, it's 3 years of middle high school, then 3 years of a higher high school. So I went to the first year of the upper high school, and there's a teacher, physics. He's a very good teacher, and I was very, very interested in physics. I hate the linguistics.
So you hated
even
languages.
Chinese, I have to take a second year to make up it because I failed the first year. And also I hate the English because English at that time require you to remember a lot of vocabulary. And I hate to memorize things. I like physics. I want to analyze things, you know. So I'm good in math and physics and chemistry, but I'm very bad in linguistics, like English, Chinese.
So this was a teacher in the mainland before you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was in Taiwan, though.
Oh, that was in Taiwan.
Yeah,
Okay.
high school. Yeah.
Okay. Was it? Did you find it very different living in Taiwan than the mainland?
In the beginning, yes, because when we moved to Taiwan, we are kind of suburban of the Taipei, and so its neighbors are the few, you know, the
Fields,
the farmer plant things.
the rice.
Rice, most are rice. But after a couple years, then the more people come in, then it become all the few build houses, and not much different from Shanghai then.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Except the language we have, the local language, we cannot communicate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because they spoke Taiwanese.
Yeah, Taiwanese is quite different from Shanghainese. Yeah.
Oh, right. Because you're a native Shanghainese speaker.
Yeah.
So your native dialect is Shanghainese. Did you have trouble learning Mandarin, or did you already know Mandarin from before, from the mainland?
Mandarin is actually I picked up a Mandarin from my wife when we were married in America.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's also from Taiwan, but she get Taiwan much earlier than me, probably at least 1 year earlier than us, because my father-in-law is working, let's see, 海关, customs house.
Customs house. Okay.
Yeah, so they moved to Taiwan a year earlier, and she speaks Mandarin.
I see.
Yeah.
So what province is she originally from?
Hebei.
Hebei. Okay. So let's see. So then, you spoke only Shanghainese when you first moved to Taiwan,
Right.
and then the locals only spoke Taiwanese, and you didn't know Mandarin, the national language. So how did you communicate with people?
Well, in the school, KMT government forced everyone supposed to speak Mandarin, no local language. That's how we learned the Mandarin, yeah. But even that, I speak a very poor Mandarin. You know, after marrying my wife, I realized.
Okay. We went to college at National Taiwan University?
Right.
Taida.
Because I'm good in math and physics. So that time, all the university have, unfortunately, get into the National Taiwan University. It's the best university.
Yeah.
Okay, and that time, the hottest department is double E. So fortunately, I go into the double E, and I graduated from there. Yeah, in 1952.
Okay.
No, I go in for 1952,
Okay, right.
graduate in 1956.
Right. So you chose electrical engineering because it was the hardest major?
Yeah.
Not for any other reason, just because it was the hardest?
Well, one thing maybe relate to my father. Because my father is the chief engineer, sometimes when I kid, when he get to Shanghai, he bring on board, just for visit the ship. So I learned from my father that the ship using the preparing to move the ship in the water, and the preparing is kind of like electric fan, right? So because that I'm interested in the fan, and that's why I want to go to electric engineering.
Oh, okay. Because the fan is being moved by an electric motor?
Yeah. Because I thought, I learned from my father, the ship usually only, they are not going very fast. They only run 1 minute, like 89 turn. And I learned that the electric fan at home run 1,000 turn a minute. Then I thought, wow, if 89 can move the ship, then if 1,000 turn a minute, the ship will fly. Well, at that time, I thought that's why I want to go to electric, so make a major improvement on the ship.
I see.
That's how I get into electricity.
I see.
Engineer.
So what was your specialty in electrical engineering?
Then that time the university in double E split into two groups. One is the electronics, one is the electrical. And I chose a more modern one called electronics because that's more modern, I guess. But actually I wasn't realize electronic, nothing to do with the fan,
Right.
which originally get me in the double E.
Right. Because you had wanted to do with electrical mechanical things,
Right,
and
right.
electronics is
Yeah.
no moving parts.
But after go to college, I realized I want to learn the electronics because that's more modern one.
I see. So, were you exposed to computers in college at all? Were there any computers
Nope.
in Taiwan at the time?
That time the college graduate has to serve National Army. That time was a year and a half. Right now only a few months, okay? But that time in the beginnings only 1 year. But for some reason, when we graduate, they ask for a year and a half. So that's the mandatory. So I go to Army for 6 months of basic training and learn some, repair the radar. That time, American U.S. supply airplane to National Air Force. So National Air Force fly those plane, and there's a radar needed someone to, maintenance. So since we're electronic engineer, so they training 4 months, 2 months of a basic military training, and 4 months of this skill training, and for 1 year we served in the airport to service those airplane, American airplane.
So that was very directly related to things that you had studied.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it required a lot of equipment, which is maybe similar before pre-computer stuff.
So then why, how did you decide to go to graduate school in the United States?
Well, that time Taiwan's economy is not very good. So a lot of college graduates, there are not much jobs available. But that time, the national government encouraged people go to abroad to study. There are a lot of people go to U.S. So actually, half of a class end up in U.S. to the graduate school. Most of us stay in U.S. afterwards. So like my college, my classmate, after the military service, I took a ship. The reason that time airplane fares very expensive, because you have to go to Japan to go to U.S. But because my father worked in government steamship company, they do have a ship from Taiwan go to U.S. Los Angeles area. So I was on board to go to U.S. And it took me 1 month. Wow. Very slow.
Was your father working on the ship?
No.
Okay, different.
He worked on some other ship.
Okay.
But
he got you passage for free.
Yeah, because he worked for the company. Also, as a matter of fact, the chief engineer on that, the steamship I take to the U.S. is my neighbor. Oh. So he take care of me.
Okay. Did your parents, were they sad to see you leave? Were they sad to see you go, or were they encouraging for you to go to the U.S.?
My father encouraged, because he feel I should, learn more if there's a chance. Of course, my mother hate me leave, but in the family, my father say so, and I want to go because I see all of my classmates, went to U.S. So.
Had you already met your wife at this point? Or?
No.
No, okay. So you met her in the U.S.?
I arrived U.S. November 1958 in Long Beach. And I go to school called Kansas State University in Manhattan, Kansas. And I take 3 semesters and get a master.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, then
that's very fast.
Well, a year and a half, that's most of people do. And I start working for RCA back in Camden, New Jersey,
Oh, okay.
just across the Philadelphia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it was, so you got a master's also in electrical engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why Kansas State?
Because one of my classmates is there,
Oh.
and because he's better student than me, so he got a scholarship in Kansas State.
Oh.
But I applied, they didn't give to me, so I have to pay my own.
Uh-huh.
But that's the only few school I know,
Oh, I see.
so I went there. But first semester I pay my own. But second semester I got a scholarship.
I see.
Yeah.
How did you pay for the first semester?
The first semester I work part-time.
Mm-hmm.
I work at a school. Student, you can work in the school like a cafeteria.
Right.
Yeah.
So were you still focused on electronics at this point?
Yeah. I work electronics. But after graduate, I went to Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I went to Philadelphia because many of my Taiwan college classmates,
Mm-hmm.
they stay in Philadelphia, studying University of Pennsylvania.
Oh.
That was a very big, famous school.
Right.
And during 1959 summer, I went to New York for summer job. I stopped by, and I stay in the apartment. And I like my classmates, so many of them in there. So I decided after graduate I want to go to Philadelphia.
I see.
But I didn't get a job in Philadelphia.
Huh.
I ended up got a job in Camden, which is just across the river.
Right.
Yeah. The reason I got a job is also very interesting. Because that time, even though I in U.S. for a year and a half, my English is very, very poor still. And when I talk, actually, I learned later, okay, nobody can understand me because I'm still speaking Chinese English, so-called. But the reason I got job is because the boss is a Chinese, and he interviewed me in Chinese.
Okay.
And he looked at my school record. It's very good in Kansas State, all triple A's, all straight A student. And so he liked me. So he hired me. But my English is still very poor. That time sometimes we do when RC at that time want to go to computer business.
Right.
So when building computer, and my group is build a CPU, okay? When we test the machine, we have to do every testing log. So every engineer have to write down what you did, what you found, what bug you discover, and so forth. So every day I have to write the log. And the log, I learned later that only my boss can understand. Some high engineer, they look high on this project, so they come to see log. They don't understand at all. But I didn't learn that time. Later on, I learned from my boss saying, Your English is still no good.
So was that your first exposure to computers? Was that project?
That's the expose the computer, and then we actually did build a computer, and we also ship into a company, and then we have to, because we projects sort of kind of delay the schedule, so we have to get engineer go on site to continue to testing the computer. So it's the computer in the New York. So I have to go to New York for 7 months to check out the computer.
Oh, okay. So you were like a field test engineer kind of.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember what model of computer that was? Okay.
We own the RCA computer.
And how long were you at that job?
I worked 3 years.
3 years. So that was from which year?
It's from 1960 until 1963.
Until 63. Okay. And then you decided to go get a Ph.D.?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That time, because U.S. won a lot of engineer, so the company sponsored me to get a permanent resident.
Okay.
So in 1963, probably in springtime, I got permanent residence. So I decided I want, like my classmate, all my classmates go to college, want to have PhD. So I want a PhD as well. Then I chose in Illinois, because that time, there's better university like MIT or Caltech or Illinois. It's pretty well, famous. So I chose in Illinois.
I see. Because it was one of the top schools.
Yeah.
At Urbana-Champaign.
Yeah, Urbana-Champaign, yes.
Yeah.
So I went there 63 September.
September 63. So did you, could you describe your time there? Was it enjoyable? Was it fun? Hard work?
It's okay, as long as because it's computer science. So even though in the class I still have a difficult time when student and professor discussing, I still most of the time I couldn't follow. But since there's a textbook, I can study textbook, so I still got good grade. I study computer related.
Okay. So then by this time your PhD is firmly, you're doing computer related stuff, computer design type of things. Yeah. Okay. And so they had a program that was in electrical engineering that was focused on computers specifically?
It's that time they don't have a computer science department yet. So it's in EE.
Right.
But sometimes they join with the mathematics department, have different subject.
I see.
Yeah. So I was one of those, joined the math and the EE
I see.
in more theoretical computers subject. Yeah.
Okay. So now you weren't just learning the hardware, you were also learning like the algorithms and
Right.
those types of things
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. Yeah, so you had a very broad computer education.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. And so, did you find it? You didn't find it very difficult?
Not very difficult.
What other sort of areas? What sorts of classes did they have?
Well, I not really remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is, you said you joined, you went to school to graduate school, your PhD in
Well,
63?
I finished in February of 1967. February, and that's so I actually graduated officially in June of 67.
Oh, right.
Because it's between the
Right.
the school year.
Yeah.
However, because I finished everything in February, so I joined company called Bell Lab,
Right.
AT&T Bell Lab. I work over there. Start from February
February. Okay.
until August 69.
69, right. Okay. And how did you get that position?
Well, because those big company, they go to school. Before you graduate, they go to school and interview. I got job that way.
Oh, okay, right. So I guess you had good grades. You were a top student, so they snatched you up.
I guess so.
What was your PhD dissertation focused on?
It's a theory about self-diagnostic. I don't remember the exact title, but it relates. You try to self-diagnostic computer,
I see.
but in theoretically.
So you had a lot of experience in design in computer design or computer
Well, the
architecture?
computer design way back in RCA.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So that you had already had that experience.
Oh yeah.
Right, yeah. Could I also ask, how much attention were you paying to U.S. politics and also international politics during this time?
Well, that time, I mainly, try to have a family, try to stay, have a better life. So I'm not too much watch out for, international news. I did sometime during the school in Illinois. I subscribed 2 magazines. One is Time, one is Newsweek. So every week I read those magazines. So from there I learned something, international thing. But most of the time I just read the article, not doing anything.
Right. So what were your thoughts about things like the Cold War or the Vietnam War or the Kennedy assassination. Did you have any reactions to those events?
Well, sometime in Time magazine, the article about the China, okay. Of course, I do remember 1 year physics, the doctor in China operate a hand, and they connected some nerve, so the patient can using his hand. There's an article presented in World Physics meeting, and I read that. I feel great. I feel proud of the Chinese.
Right.
You know, they achieve such thing. But the other, I don't have too much to remember. But mainly at that time, I tried to establish a family. And I met my wife in February 1967, just before I leave Illinois. I met my wife.
At Illinois?
At Illinois.
Okay.
She just arrived in Illinois. You know, in Chinese students, we always welcome a party to welcome new student arrive. So the party, I wasn't planning to attend the party. However, the party's organizer, it used to be my roommate. So because I'm leaving Illinois, so I had to see him about something I'm leaving for. I don't remember the detail. So I go to there, and I saw my future wife there. When I saw her, I have a love in the first sight. So I stay in the party and sit next to her, talk to her, try to get information from her name, her relative, all that. It turns out she go to Illinois because her sister-in-law is a graduate student in the Chinese literature department. And he teaching Chinese for the Americans. So he need an assistant, teaching assistant. So take her from Taiwan to be a teaching assistant. And also teaching assistant, she can go to graduate school, to study for the master or so. So that's how he get into Illinois. So I found out, but I knew her brother-in-law, okay? So then in the party I met her. So later I write a letter to her and then try to establish our relationship.
So you were trying to woo her while you long distance after you graduated, after you joined Bell Labs?
Yeah, because I work in the AT&T Bell Lab, so the phone call is free. So every day I call her, long distance. That time it's very expensive for long distance call. But I take advantage of the company.
Right. So you were working for Bell Labs in New Jersey, correct?
Yeah, Murray Hill.
Murray Hill, yeah. And So I guess you were working on computer stuff there too.
That time this semiconductor haven't starting yet. There's no integrated circuit.
Right.
And when I joined them, they are thinking about build a computer so they can make fabric, make that time computer is very big. One computer make with like a refrigerators, 10 or 20 refrigerators size. So they are thinking build a small computer. Try to because the Bell Lab also have a lab, so they are thinking how they shrink those into integral circuit. So
they were
I'm doing the research in that area.
Okay. So they were already building transistorized computers, but with discrete transistors.
When try to build a computer, so they are thinking how they can make an integral circuit.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my function is build a computer, working computer, so they can try to using integral circuit to implement that.
Oh, right. Because that was already 67. So yeah. So there already were integrated circuits at that point in time, right? So you were at Bell Labs for 2 years until August 1969. You said, right?
Right. Two and a half years.
2.5 years. Yeah. So why did you decide to leave?
Well, actually, during this winter, let's see, it probably 6-8 during the winter area.
Of 68?
I live a apartment near the Murray Hill. The apartment is a little hill. So if you go to the street, you have to go through a little road, a hill road. Yeah. And my apartment is on top of the little hill. And that time, actually probably 69 maybe, because I already have the baby.
Oh, okay. So you had gotten married already?
The first daughter is May 69. So we just had a baby. Or maybe we don't have a baby yet.
When did you get married?
Huh?
When did you get married?
We married in 67.
67. Oh, okay. So pretty soon after you met?
Yeah,
your wife,
pretty
you got
soon I
married.
met her. What happened is that I met her in February 67. So then I long distance call her. And in June 67, her brother, who live in Los Angeles, getting married. And then her brother-in-law just graduated in June 67, and he decided to go to Harvard for postdoctoral research. But before go to Harvard, they decided driving car from Illinois to LA to attend my brother-in-law's wedding. And so I thought that's a good opportunity to see their family. So I say, I want to go to wedding as well. And also I proposed to her, and we decided day after their wedding, we will have engagement in Los Angeles. So that's give me a chance to go to Los Angeles. So she accepted my proposal. So we all went, her brother-in-law and her sister and her driving from Illinois to Los Angeles. I fly from New Jersey to Los Angeles. So we engaged over there after her brother-in-law wedding. Then she fly back. My future wife fly back into New Jersey after we engaged. Then we actual marriage is September '67 in New Jersey.
So did she complete her degree at Illinois?
No, she gave up.
So she just
Because
moved in with you.
her sister and his brother-in-law also left. And she have a problem with her English, where she as she just graduated, in U.S. very short time. So she was afraid to stay alone in Illinois. So I convinced her go with me. Yeah. And we have a child in '69 May, my first child. But probably before, maybe my wife is not labor yet, during the winter. One day, I took my wife to go to, I forget the reason we go out. And my car was on top of the hill. And instead of go down, if the road this way, your car go that way normally, right? But my actual car was slide down, sideway, go down up until the bottom one. We were scared because my wife was pregnant. So I decided, no, that's the way. I can't stand the window because the car is always parked outside. And after the big snow, the snow plow push the ice on your car. So you have, each time you have the car, you have to spend hour to dig out of the car from the snow pack. So I decided, well, I better go to East Coast because we had Los Angeles before. I like the Los Angeles. Besides her brother-in-law in Los Angeles. So, and my boss in RCA, Andy Ling, that time also joined Xerox Scientific Data System. In '69, they bought the data system. And Xerox at that time have ambitious to build a computer, compete with IBM. So they hire a lot of people. And learned that, I talked with Andy Ling. Andy Ling wanted to hire me. So that's how I decided in August of '69, I joined Scientific Data System, Xerox.
So they had just bought SDS.
Yeah, they just bought, I think, in summer of, then decided they expand, want to compete with IBM. By build Ming computers.
Mini computer?
No, Ming. Ming
mainframe.
computer.
Mainframe?
Yeah, that time, there are no mini computer yet. They're all mainframe, time sharing. So I was hired in August '69. I'm in a group mainly designed CPUs, the hardware. I think 500 series.
So then, what was it like being in I guess what had been SDS now was XDS in El Segundo?
Actually, the life there is very tough. the reason is the pressure is very high because we have to do a lot of things. And I work really, really hard at that time because I start having kids, right? Yeah. And also I bought a house, so I have a pressure in payment. Right. So I work really hard. I work, the pressure is so high that I got also. But I wasn't aware. One day, my boss have a party. He living in Palos Verde Peninsula, which is in kind of it's a hillside house in the hillside. I live in Torrance, which is in the bottom of a hill, and I drive my car to their party, and go to in the party because I didn't know that I'm bleeding inside. I lost a lot of blood. I was actually faint in the living room. Oh, wow. Yeah. And my boss, first I thought maybe because I driving too fast or something, go up. That was Sunday, I think. The Monday I went to work, and my boss looked very pale. Said, "Oh, you look very bad. You better see a doctor." So I drove my car to see a doctor, to see a stomach doctor. And he looked at me, he said, "Did you drive yourself?" I said, "Yes." "You better not," because he discovered I lost a lot of blood. And he said, I have to give you blood. So I stay in the hospital. I got a blood transfusion. And that time I got hepatitis B.
Oh, wow.
From the blood transfusion.
From the transfusion?
Yeah. But that time, because the pressure is too high, I work, day, night, and sometimes skip a meal. That's got this. Actually, I got a choice for the Xerox.
Oh, wow. So your boss there was still Andy Lin, the same boss that you worked for at
Yeah.
What was the culture of the division like, of that part of the company?
I think, I guess, apparently it's not very good. I mean, pressure is really high, I guess, because Xerox took 5 or 6 years to realize couldn't compete with IBM. So they, in 75, decided to quit the computer business. Right? I mean, so that time, I think pressure is really high. So we work not present again. That's how I got twice. Also, too much blood, lost blood, hospital twice.
Wow. So was it really just terrible morale all around among all the engineers?
Well, in the first 2 years, not bad. But that time, in the beginning, Xerox pumped a lot of money. Yeah. But afterwards, years getting worse, yeah.
So did you work on the Sigma series of computers?
I don't remember Sigma, but I remember 500
the 500
series.
Yeah. So then I guess you transferred to Park after
after they closed, then Park that time decide they already have Alto 1 built, right? Yeah. And they decide to want to expand more. So since Los Angeles area computer division closed, there are a lot of people working in the computer business. So they transfer me to Park. I think it's September 75 to work on the Alto.
Right. And how many of your colleagues were also transferred?
I really don't know. In my department, I mean, my group, only me go to there. Yeah.
Wow. And so did the rest of them lose their jobs? Did the rest of them lose their jobs?
Oh no, they stay. They actually, Xerox still working on the company printer.
Oh, okay.
The large printer, you know. Actually, Xerox make a lot of money for that.
Oh, the laser printer.
Yeah, laser print. Yeah.
Right.
I think they stay doing those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So then, so talk about coming to Park and what was that like? How was that different from working in El Segundo?
Well, the first impression I got to the Park is that one Butler Lampson,
Butler Hansen.
he talked really fast. My English, even though I stay U.S. for 75, so it's already many years, right? But I still couldn't really follow him. So that's the first impression. I found that he talked very fast. I remember one day he gave a talk in Park. He said, well, I tried to speak slow. I promise I tried to speak slow. But even that, I still feel he talked too fast. Second one is that I met Chuck Thacker, because he's actually my boss. And Chuck is a very tall and well-built, strong person. But his handwriting is very small. Actually, I sample.
Oh, really?
I gave you a copy. There's a sample. His handwriting is very, very tiny.
Right.
That's a chalk made of the schedule of the project.
Oh, okay. Wow. And so that's his handwriting there?
Yeah, the handwriting. And the other thing I discovered that, way back in Los Angeles, I'm with the hardware group. And the hardware group, and there's another group called software. But with the hardware group, know nothing about the software at all. Never involving anything in the software. But way back in Palo Alto, that's quite a difference. The people not only know hardware very well, they produce a lot of software. That's the impression I got. For example, like a Bob Sparrow, I remember when I got there, we already have a logic diagram. Namely, you put chips, you put the chip together, it connect a line together, and then it's a logic diagram, your hardware design. And Chuck wants Bob to do a program, take those logic diagrams and put maybe several logic diagrams into a board, and also generate the backplane and for wiring nest, and eventually make a larger board for the design of what they want. I think he only take 5 days, take the whole software. Well, that's really impressed me. So I realized that in Park, you not only have to know hardware, you have to know software as well. And when I joined Park, I only know the hardware because I used to do in Los Angeles all the hardware thing.
Yeah.
But I only do the implement, like a soldier, like Bud Lampson or Chuck Thacker, they are like a general. They put out the spec, and I try to put into the silicon and make the hardware realize.
So was this the first time you had done any software, or I mean, I guess you had
Well,
learned some theory
first,
back in school.
I only do the hardware, implement the hardware. Well, I remember do Alto using the ECL technology, because that time was more fast. However, they are more expensive. And later on, Texas Instrument come out the TTL logic, and then when we implement Alto in TTL logic, that's more cheaper. Yeah. Then I decided I want to get involved with SIL. So when Bob designed the SIL system, I volunteered to maintain that.
To maintain it.
Maintain the software system, add more components, add changes, other people ask, yeah.
Okay, so it was SIL that Bob Sproul wrote.
Yeah.
Right.
Basically, he wrote the whole thing.
The whole thing, right.
I just maintain it. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit more about working on the Alto CPU?
Yeah, I think that in the very beginning, I just implemented CPUs, the microcode. The microcode is very, very complex because
Complex.
I used to do microcoding in Los Angeles as well. Okay, however, that time we are a lot of fields are fixed. If you have a 16-bit, and each bit have a function, or maybe you separating subfield, and 2-bit, 3-bit, 5-bit, total 16-bit, but each field have fixed interpretation.
Right.
But Alto's microcode is very complex. Not only the 16-bit, one format. Sometimes, depending on first 2-bit, you have some other format. I never see so complex microcode field. This is something I never done before. But why is choosing this way? Because you want to create much more different microcode. Sometimes Alto microcode even allow you, the user can specify.
Wow.
Well, that's something very, very different.
Wow.
But that also make the decoder is much more complex.
And so you worked on the decoder.
Oh yeah, I just implement the mic. Well, whatever Butler and Chuck, they sort of put out the spec, what they want. I just implement.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, let's see, you said you worked on 2 bus systems and the memory and cache also?
Oh yeah, the cache memory, because later we found out we need more memory. Yeah. Okay. As an implementer, I choosing available from Texas or other semiconductor where they come out the more high density thing, then I implement. Yeah.
Right, I see. And you also worked on an Ethernet controller?
Yes. I think.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
I don't quite remember, but I
Okay. And then, so you've already said that you were the maintainer of SIL.
yeah.
How was that very complicated, or was it fairly straightforward?
Bob already, lay out all the things. So for my software beginner, it's not tough. Yeah. Actually, I have this SIL library.
Oh, cool. Oh, wow.
This is the first page.
Mm-hmm.
This is draft memo. And these are the library, the components, so people can use to design logic. There's ECL logic. This is TTL. I think I have another one that have ECL logic.
I see. So did you create some of those components, some of those libraries?
Yeah, you have to. You found out what's available on, outside. Then you feel it's good for use, so you create the diagram. It's an icon, so people can pick this, then connect the pin together.
Right. So you've mentioned working with Chuck Thacker and with Bella Lamson and with Bob Sproul.
Right.
Who else did you work with?
Bob Metcalf.
Oh, Metcalf, right? Yeah. Great, because you were working on the Ethernet control.
Right.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Other people I don't remember.
I see. Okay. Is there anything else you want to add about the your work on the Alto specifically?
Alto using PROM for control store.
Right.
And we bought a programmer and a program, so I can using this programmer to zap the PROM.
So that was part of your work, is to is to flash these PROMs.
Yeah.
Are there any other diagrams that you want to show us?
Let's see. I discovered there's a Janus etch input procedure. Written myself and two other person. So there's this procedure is called draft.
Oh, okay. Janus etch input procedure. So this is for etching semiconductors, or?
Yeah. What happens if you create the logic diagram by the cell, then eventually it will come out using this procedure to come out. It will control the etch machine to make it the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. No, that's neat.
This is a memo created from Chuck. It's called D0 module revision control.
Oh, D0 module control?
Control.
Okay.
You control. The reason I have because there's my name in the distribution.
D0, so that's one of the D machines, the D series?
This is the D0 machine. This is the ECL cell icon.
So then in 1977, you transferred to the Xerox Personal Computer Division?
Actually, I think I'm not quite sure the name of the division. When I come into Palo Alto, I think Chuck that time joined the special division for the Alto project.
Oh. Okay.
So I think I joined that group. It's not really belong to Park.
Oh,
Because I look at the Park's organization, I saw Butler name, but I don't see Chuck's name.
Oh,
But
I see.
But in some other talk, Chuck talking about he was transferred to the Alto project. So I probably joined that group. But unfortunately, I searched that group. I don't have organization chart. So
Right.
I don't see where I belong to. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I think I remember that there was a group that was trying to make more production versions of the Alto.
Yeah.
Like an Alto 3 or something, or
I remember
Alto.
like a Dover is a printer.
Right.
Then Dorado, I remember the name.
Right.
And I also remember Dandelion.
Right.
Yeah. And I also remember Star.
Right.
Yeah.
So the division that you were in were doing all of those machines?
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
Right. Yeah, so you're working on the D. So you were working on the D machines after the Alto.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Did you want to show us that photograph?
Oh,
Is that?
I gave you a picture of that.
Okay.
And this is another one. For some reason, this is one more people than the other one. That's in Palo Alto Park. I don't know which building is. That's our group.
Right. I see. So that's your group, and you're in the
I'm
corner there.
in right here.
Right.
Now I remember her. She's our group's secretary. She's from Hawaii. She's very nice to me, and she also, when during lunch hour, when jogging, quite every day around the park. It's a very nice neighborhood. And also I remember I bring something. I remember I don't remember which year, and when decided to join the Beta Breaker.
Oh.
This is the first year Xerox Park people go to, and someone in one of them created this T-shirt. I thought very nice. Copy machine.
Okay, so they're coming out of a copier.
Actually, she married one of our group's engineer.
Oh. Do you remember their names? No. So then after the Alto, which was the first machine that you worked on? Which were the D machines?
D0.
D0.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that one, was that the Dolphin? I'm not sure which.
I don't remember the other name, yeah. But it's a D0. Yeah.
So you worked on a number of them.
Yeah.
So you worked on the Dorado and
Dorado and the Dandelion.
Mm-hmm. And then the Dandelion is what became the Star, the 8010.
Yeah.
Could you describe some of the challenges of working on those machines?
I think mainly challenge is cut the cost because it's still too expensive. The only thing I regret is that, Xerox never make any money out of the Alto concept. But that time, my view is that they're too ambitious. They should look at this as a tool for the engineer programmer, like a workstation. You see, later, some company would make a workstation out of it, make a good business. I think Xerox should go after that. But they think a computer with the IBM, the top machine. So they want to make it as popular as everybody. That's why Xerox never make any money. And later, Apple, Steve Jobs took over. He made a lot of money, right? Yeah.
So the star was specifically targeted at offices, correct?
Yeah, because it's too expensive. We can't make cheaper. I mean, because the up management want us to talk to everybody. That's wrong.
And were you still doing hardware on these machines, or were you also doing software?
No, I'm still doing mainly the hardware.
The hardware. So
except for the seal.
But you were still maintaining SIL this entire time?
Yeah.
Okay. So were you still designing CPUs and things like that?
Oh, no. Later I designed other, like a hard disk controller. I do remember the original hard disk control designer even though I in American for many years, I still have a problem with the English. I have only limited vocabulary. I can't write nice memo, okay? So that disk control, I forget which project. Disk control, he never make it work. So finally, company want me to take over his project and I got, I think, a 4 engineer work under me. And we have a lot of pressure and with a fixed time to make it work. So I remember that.
And were you successful?
Yes.
Yeah.
And make it work.
You mentioned that your English still wasn't that good. Was that an issue with communicating with your coworkers or taking over this project?
I think probably yes. Yeah, because I'm still using Chinese English, so there are not too many Chinese work with me, so they're not not really understand what I'm meaning. Okay, so I feel that I probably performance-wise is not as good as others. Yeah.
So then how did you get your team to work to succeed despite the communication issues?
When you're working like this control, you are using code, your language, so it's not too difficult to directing what you want,
I see.
or you can debug it yourself sometimes. Yeah.
So so you can sort of communicate in a technical language,
Yeah,
technical term, right? Could you talk a bit about your family life during this period?
Yeah, then I transferred Park in September 75.
Right.
And in 75, Thanksgiving Day, and company allowed me to bring the whole family. That time I was there with my mother and my wife and the 3 kids, okay, into San Francisco to look the area, okay, and this is the first time I realized it's very, very bad to fly in Thanksgiving Day. Boy, we're waiting so long in the airport. So many people that jammed, and their flight is late. And my wife took my mother and the 3 little kids. That's Ray, I think, is 75. So you are only 3 years? Yeah, she's only 3 years old. My little son is 2 years old.
So
very, yeah. We really go to a hotel when, company allowed me to have a hotel. Really late. We haven't eat, So this is the first time I realized we never should fly on Thanksgiving Day. And then we bought a house in 76. They moved from February. We moved into the February 8th, I think, into the current house.
Oh, okay.
And that time she was 4. My son was 3. My elder daughter was 6. Yeah. And I still my mother's, and we lived there since then.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So this is their current house in Saratoga?
Yeah.
That you bought that in 76?
Yes, yeah. Fortunately, I bought it really early. We originally tried to find it in Palo Alto, but Palo Alto really expensive. Then later in Los Altos, we found it was cheaper than Palo Alto, but still very expensive. Then I found the Saratoga, and so we bought one. Fortunately, we bought it, and right now I can't afford it.
Yeah, right. It's really expensive now.
Yeah, even the property tax I can't afford.
So you mentioned your mother. When did your mother come to the U.S.?
My father and mother came to U.S. when I'm working in Los Angeles.
I see.
I think it's 1971. My wife, we married in 69, and we married in 67. Then we have a first child 69, and we bought a house in Los Angeles in 70, and in December of 70, my wife took my first daughter back to Taiwan.
Oh.
I could visit for a couple months.
Right.
And the next year, my parents coming over. My father already retired.
I see.
My father was very healthy, though. But we live in Palos Verdes, which is a hill area. And I bought a bicycle for him. He bicycle every day, up and down hill, a lot of places. But unfortunately, in 60, let's see, when was that? 73, we visit Las Vegas. We also visited a dam. I forget what the name. Hoover Dam. We visited Hoover Dam. And when we were coming back, my father was diagnosed have a leukemia. And he's staying, we have to do the chemo for a year. And he died the next year in 74. Then in 76, we moved from LA to Saratoga. My mother had a stroke on 89, I think. And then he has to go to, because half of, so we have to take her to a residential hospital. And she died 3 years later, I think.
So you said you moved from LA to Saratoga in 76?
February 76.
February 76. But you had already been working in Palo Alto for a
year.
year.
I started in September 75, yeah.
Oh, I see. So for a few months did you rent an apartment here while the rest of your family was still there?
I rented apartment in Palo Alto.
Yes, sir.
And my whole family in back in LA. Yeah.
Okay. So you were continuing to work at Xerox until 1989?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And what made you decide to leave in 1989?
Well, that time my family is really bad. My mother had a stroke, so she has to stay in a sort of convalescent hospital, because we cannot take care of her, right? Because she needed 24-hour take care. And also my first daughter is sick. She has to stay in hospital. And so my wife looked after her in the hospital. Okay. So that time our family every night have 3 places. My daughter and my wife, and my mother in the other place, and I took 2 of other kids in our own Saratoga place. So that's really big. I was very depressed. So that time Xerox offered early retirement. So I took, that time I have worked for 20 years. So I thought I took the early retirement. So leave the Xerox. Yeah. But actually, my college friend, he's lived nearby me. He was against it. He said, "Don't do that," because he aware outside the job community, but I wasn't. I thought, wow, I'm very experienced. I'm work in computer, time sharing, personal computer. I have a lot of experience. I should be very easy to get a job. But I was wrong.
Really?
Yeah. After a few months, I decided to apply job, but that time I already, that's 89, so it's 50 some years old, over 50. Nobody interests me.
Really?
But fortunately, my friend introduced me to IBM, got a job there.
Okay. So you started at IBM working on what?
It's doing the testing
Testing.
of the, yeah.
This is at Almaden, the IBM research.
No, it's computer, I forget division. It's in the new San Jose,
Okay.
the Ming complex. There are a lot of division there, not the lab.
I see. So you did manage to find a job through your friend.
Well, fortunately, a friend introduced me, because usually IBM don't hire very old people.
Oh. So I mean, you experienced ageism. Did you experience any other kind of discrimination during your career?
I guess there are. I mean, even Xerox, like my boss, A.T. Ling, he was Ming manager for all the CPUs,
Yeah.
but he only go up one level up. And at that time, we have another Chinese. He found out become a division manager. That was a very high rank, but he's really super guy, but he never go up. Okay, we can feel it, because there's a top ceiling that time.
Yeah.
In the IBM, we can tell too. They are never really high up level manager.
Do you think that's changed since?
Yes. Nowadays, I guess it changed a lot. Yeah.
So how long were you at IBM?
It's not very long. I think I joined them 1990, I guess, until 96. Because there's the new CEO. That time IBM wasn't doing very good. So he want to cut the cost. So he have a master layoff. I was laid off from 96.
And did you find another job after that?
I only found an odd job.
Odd jobs?
Yeah, like odd job. I work for LSI, little while.
LSI?
Yeah, and also work for some little company. It's no longer exists. Startup company.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was during like the .com era, late 90s?
Before that, I think.
Before that?
Yeah, before .com.
In 96 time frame?
Well, the last job I did is 2000.
In 2000, okay. And that was
It's an odd job,
Yeah.
short term.
Right. So at various startups and things.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I guess you decided to just retire in 2000?
Well, I can't find a job, so I retired anyway.
Okay. So, how would you sort of, looking back, summarize your career?
Well, I feel I'm lucky, in the EE department. And also, it turns out U.S. during that my working period, the computer, business is really growing. Okay, so I'm lucky in that area. So I found a various job, and also experiencing with the Alto is, I'm fortunate, participated.
Right. Looking back on your work on the Alto, what are you most proud of?
I think I can implement the hardware, the Chuck Butler specify, and also the microcode area. I implement that. This is a very complex one.
Do you think at all about the impact that your work has made?
I guess I did contribute some, okay, realize from an idea to actual physical thing. Of course, I'm just a soldier, doing little thing. Like Butler and Chuck, they are far side. They look way down the area, and they can specify it. But I just the soldier implement it.
Well, that's important too. It still needs to get done. If you could change anything about your career or make a different decision, what would it be?
I shouldn't retire from Xerox. I should stay on.
What would you have worked on if you had stayed, do you think?
I think Xerox is at that time doing a lot of the printer business. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, this is the only area Xerox make lots of money out of it.
So, since you've retired, what have you been working on? Or what have you been doing?
I'm really doing not much. I just I know a group of people in San Francisco, Chinatown. The group of people is more. They are very old immigrant from way back, many years ago. Yeah, and they are group people under a lot of discrimination. Okay, so they realize in American, so they want to help the new immigrant, help them establish the life in America. So I joined those group, and I spent a lot of time with them, and also set up a website for the groups. There are at least 3 websites I established. I still maintain it. Just help out. They also put up monthly magazine, So I put the magazine online so people can read those magazines.
Oh, okay.
So I was, after retired, doing those work.
I see.
Yeah. But most recently, for past 3 years, I really, because I'm too old now, I don't do, they are not asking me to do too much.
I think earlier you mentioned that your sister, your half sister, stayed in the mainland.
Yeah.
When you moved to Taiwan. Did you ever reconnect with her later on?
Yes. My father, because he worked on a steamship, sometimes he went to other places like Europe, U.S., so he have a better chance to connect to mainland China. So he have a constant contact with my sister. But during the Cultural Revolution, my sister family does, because of my father's and me in Taiwan, so they were victim of those cultural revolution. Their house constantly being searched. Okay. But later on, after mainland, the end of the Cultural Revolution, and they feel that the overseas Chinese should be welcomed. So they start treat nicely to my sister family. And in order to compensate their suffering during Cultural Revolution, they allow their second son to join the army. Because in mainland China, only good family be allowed to join the army.
I see.
Yeah. So my niece, one of the niece, go to army. He graduated from army, and he learned how to drive. So after many years, he back to Shanghai, and he as a driver truck.
So he's a truck driver
He's a truck driver.
in Shanghai.
Yeah. And my other niece, because during Cultural Revolution, he was sent to the countryside, very, very poor places, as a re-education.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And
they're both boys?
my sister have 2 boys, 4 girls,
Okay.
altogether 6
Okay.
kids. And the elder son sent to the countryside it's a very suffering experience. But later he's a very smart boy, and he doing the trade, as a dealer for teas.
Oh.
Right now he's retired, yeah. So at my home, I have a lot of teas from him.
So when did you first?
I
reconnect with
first
your sister?
visited in 1974.
Uh-huh. So soon after the U.S. reestablished relations with
Yeah,
China.
U.S. I think President Nixon visited them 72 maybe. Yeah. And then mainland China allowed people to visit. The overseas Chinese are visit. So I applied. That time, U.S. Don't have embassy or consulate in the U.S. I have to apply visa to Canada. And that time my sister, it's still a cultural revolution though. But they realize they have to be good with the overseas Chinese. So allow me to visit my sister. that most of the time they only allowed outside visitors stay in a hotel because the ordinary family is a very poor facility. They don't want look bad for overseas Chinese to see. However, I insist I want to stay in my sister's house. They approved.
Why was that?
Because that my sister house is in ghetto area. It's very poor condition. So usually they don't allow outside to see it, but they allow me to live there.
So why were you given an exception?
I don't know. I guess they just want to be friends with me, I guess.
So your sister's family stayed in the mainland. They never.
Yeah,
came
they
to
all
the US.
stay in Shanghai. Yeah. They actually, yeah. All the kids never go to college, so they're only very common people. You just work in the shop, labor work. Yeah. The only one is my eldest niece. She is a nurse. She married a techno person, and he's in the offspring. He's the only one is very good. He became a CEO of a medicine manufacturer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so their life was very good. Other than their family, the other one is barely just passing the life.
So how do you see them often, or?
In the beginning, yeah, I visited them. First visit 74. Then in 77, I took my mother to visit. Actually, my mother, because he has diabetes, in the U.S., he always feel I'm so old. That time I guess in 60, okay? In 77, I took her to go back to Shanghai. Then I go outside because they allow me to try the other places to visit. And my mother, she went back to the birthplace to see relatives. And she discovered all the countryside, the relatives are in 80, 90, and still very good health. And she feels he's much younger. He only in 60. So after the visit, when she go back U.S., he feels much better. He said, I'm much younger.
So, what do you think? What do you think about sort of what's happened to the computer industry since you've retired?
Well, it's computer the only thing cheaper every year. Nothing else like a car every year is going up. But only computer is cheaper every year. That's great. And nowadays, network all over the place. And, the network so nice. You can learn a lot of things from website now.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
What do you think? What do you think are the challenges facing the computer industry?
The only thing I don't like is that those what do you call hacker.
Hackers.
Oh, that's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I burned by a few times myself, and I constantly receive those junk mail, and I really hate those. And I wish, you know, there's a law really punish those.
Why do you think that computer history is important?
Well, it not only let your people open eyes sort of to the world, and you know also see much more than you immediately see in your around you. See, and that's important. Also, you can see other culture, other people, and other way of life. That's very important. I think that will help, you know, different kind of people on the earth understand each other. And that's what make it more peaceful. And at least find out of problems and then try to resolve it.
Yeah.
It's make world better.
So what advice would you give to a young person today?
Learn more math, learn more logic. You know, a lot of people don't hate math. Like my wife, she really hate math. But I guess because her teacher in elementary didn't do the good job, so she kind of get behind the math. But I think every child should love math, love logic, so have a better view of judge things, to analyze things.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I advise young people, you should work hard and don't think of a good life. You should go through a tough life too, and never give up when you have a difficulty. Yeah, you should work through your difficulty. More independent. Don't always want to rely on other people to help you.